This is not going to be fun. This Kirstjen Nielsen, she is the head of the Department of Homeland Security. You know, and like, look, she's a bad person. And we were told John Kelly was the adult who was going to take care of Donald Trump and this and that. And the same thing with Mattis and whatnot. And like I say, the jury is still out as to whether Mattis was preventing us from getting into a nuclear winter. And if we end up, if Donald Trump ends up dropping a nuke or accidentally drops one on us, then I'm going to say, Mattis, good for you. You did a good job for those first 2 years, but maybe you shouldn't have quit. But the bottom line is, really, if you take a job in this administration, it is a very significant piece of evidence toward the assertion that you are a horrible human being.
Should never be employable again.
Oh, without a doubt.
Not even TV jobs.
Without a doubt.
Not employable.
But I mean, as we have multiple positions, major positions in this administration to fill, just keep in mind that the people who will say yes to serving in this administration, there is really no benefit of doubt that you should be giving them. They are probably horrible human beings. But if you had any question as to the horror that someone like Kirstjen Nielsen represents, let us dispel that notion that you have there. Here is Congressman David Cicilline from Rhode Island. And this is coming. She's going in front of Congress days after a 7-year-old died in their custody. The Customs and Border Patrol died in their custody. We still don't know the real story because the parents are telling a different story than what we heard from Customs. I'm quite convinced that this story is going to get worse. It's already pretty bad. You take a 7-year-old into custody, you should check them out to make sure that they're healthy. They shouldn't 7 hours later have a 105-degree temperature and going into shock. Here is the congressman talking to Kirstjen Nielsen.
5 minutes. Thank you. Madam Secretary, did I understand you correctly to say that as you sit here today, you do not know how many human beings have died while in the custody of the department that you lead? And you, in preparation for today's hearing, you didn't ascertain that number, but you don't know it today?
I don't have an exact figure for you.
Do you have a rough idea?
Sir, what I can tell you
I'm
is...
talking about people who have died in your custody. You don't have the number?
I will get back to you with the number.
Okay. You've also said, in talking about the Flores decision, that it's a loophole. And in your written testimony, you called it burdensome.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want to make sure everybody understands what the Flores decision is in the agreement. It was an agreement that a judge fashioned based upon a lawsuit that was brought on behalf of immigrants who are being held by the U.S. government. And it is an agreement, essentially, that you cannot hold children beyond a certain period of time, even with their parents, and that you cannot separate children from their parents. Continue.
And in your written testimony, you called it burdensome court opinions. You do recognize that those opinions are based on constitutional protections, do you not?
The reference in the testimony was to a whole variety of court cases.
I'm talking about your written testimony where you spoke about Flores as a burdensome court opinion. Those may impose some burdens on you because the Constitution protects liberty and puts limitations on when the government can detain people.
Sir, the Constitution does not say that families can only be detained for 20 days.
That's what the Flores decision says, and it's based on the Constitution. Is it not? And it's a law that you're required to
follow.
Pause it.
The Constitution does not say a lot of things. It doesn't say anything about a border. It doesn't say anything about a border patrol. It doesn't say anything about Department of Homeland Security. It doesn't say a whole host of things. But it does say cruel and inhuman punishment, not allowed. It does say you cannot hold people indefinitely without some type of specific charges. It does say equal protection. There's a whole host of things that the Constitution says that as the congressman says, the Flores decision was developed based upon. Go back just a little bit.
On whether the government can detain people.
Sir, the Constitution does not say that families can only be detained for 20 days.
That's what the Flores decision says,
But
and that
that
it's based on the Constitution, is it not? And it's a law that you're required to follow. Correct? You took an oath.
The Flores settlement.
Are you required to follow
Would
that
you like
law?
me to answer the question,
Yes,
or you
I'd
want
like
to
you
just
answer
yell
the
at me?
question
Because it's
that
up to
I
you.
ask. I'm asking
And
you.
I'm trying
is
to
the
answer it,
Flores
so would you like to
decision
hear
a
it?
decision that you respect and honor in the work of the department? That's a yes or a no.
The Flores settlement requires us to write a regulation, which we have, and it's out for public comment. We are following the law to the letter.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. You've
There you go. The idea that people would get offended that she doesn't have the ability to eat at fancy restaurants without being, without worrying about being criticized, it's just ridiculous.
Wherever this woman goes, she should, people should, in a, totally legal, respecting of her physical space way, totally legal, totally cool way, tell her what they think of her.
Yeah.
Which is that she's a disgusting, despicable, grotesque, evil, inhumane disgrace to humanity.
I'm thinking like a GoFundMe that pays for a guy with a tuba just to follow her around and play Oompa music, just to announce horrible human being coming through the town
right.
square.
Just go and you say, it's perfectly cool, perfectly legal. You're a horrible, disgusting person. You should go live in a monastery and repent for decades.
This was also, and what's going to be interesting about this is the Democrats in the minority. When they become the chairs of these committees and can start compelling subpoenas and whatnot, this is going to get even more interesting.
That alone. Another one, we always look for these like little margins that show you like worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Here's Ted Lieu, Congressman Ted Lieu from California, explaining to Kirstjen Nielsen that she is full of crap. And the entire argument that somehow we are in this nation is experiencing a crisis of immigration is completely false.
I would just appreciate it if you started telling the truth to American people about the policy of family separation. So
Again, sir, I would
that was not a question. That was just you can answer
Okay.
after I'm done.
No problem. If you'd like to just give a speech,
much
I'll just
time-
let me know when you're done.
I'm going to ask you some questions now.
Wonderful.
So during your opening statement, you sort of painted this dark picture of this crisis at the border and there was crime and so on. Are you aware that in 2017, violent crime rates dropped?
Across the country or
Yes,
in a
across the
particular
country.
other country or?
FBI report, have you read it? It says violent crime rates dropped in 2017. Are you aware of that?
I have no reason to dispute the FBI.
Same report also says property crime rates dropped in 2017, according to that same report. Are you aware of that?
I have no reason to dispute the FBI.
Are you aware of the numerous reports that say immigrants, both documented and undocumented, commit less crimes than native-born Americans? Are you aware of those studies?
I have not seen those particular studies.
Right, so I'd like you to go or have your staff show you the Cato Institute study from 2014 that showed all immigrants are less likely to be incarcerated than native-born Americans relative to their share of the population. There's been a Public Policy Institute of California study that also showed that the foreign-born, who make up about 35% of the adult population in California, constitute only about 17% of the adult prison population. So just be helpful if you start putting in some basic facts about the actual facts related to immigrants and crime. And then I'm just going to conclude by quoting from Congressman Will Hurd, who said essentially in a Washington Post op-ed that building a wall will be the most expensive and least effective way to secure the border.
There you go. Kirstjen Nielsen having a little learning annex class on the facts that
Another
that they
surly
will
brat.
completely.
Just like
yeah.
all these other people.
She is the indignant quality of these people is fascinating.
Look, if you just want to grandstand about our reckless negligence leading to the death of a 7-year-old, go right ahead.
Yeah, she's Stephen Miller with better hair. The best
Barely.
defense is a good offense.
Best
I guess.
defense is sullen racism and self-pity.